Hi guys, this is Lashette from Scarlet Moon Creations, and I'm back with my July reading wrap up where I talk about all of the books I read in the month of July and give you my July reading stats. Hi guys, this is Lashette from Scarlet Moon Creations, and I'm back with my July reading wrap up where I talk about all of the books I read in the month of July and give you my July reading stats. Yeah, this is late, but you just recently got my May and June wrap up, so there's that. The usual summer warning for ambient noise. My window is open and it rained, so you might hear passing cars more clearer than normal, I guess, but please excuse that. I am cutting out any weird sounds as best that I can. So with that being said, let's jump right into the stats. I mentioned in my last wrap-up, the last couple of wrap-ups actually, that I would be adjusting my stats, adding a new one, and changing an old one. So that's starting now, and I'm very happy. I will tell you what I've changed when I get to it, but let's start with the usual. I read a total of 5 books in the month of July. Pages read 1,764. No hours listened, no audiobooks. My average rating was 3.3. And no books acquired, no books by own voices, authors. Now we move on to the genres. And this was a major change. I'm actually going to talk more about subgenres than major genres. It's been bugging me. I think I've mentioned it in previous videos. Just saying romance or fantasy just don't really give a good grasp of what I'm reading. So I'm just going to be telling you subgenres for now on. Now, in the month of July, I read 1 epic or high fantasy book, 1 fantasy romance, 2 contemporary romances, and what I'm calling a steampunk book. Steampunk being a subgenre of sci-fi. Now, for formats, like I said, no audiobooks. I read 3 ebooks and 2 physical books. Now we're on to the next category, which is brand new, and that is for... I've been wanting to add this for a while, again, obviously. Particularly because graphic novels, comics, manga, manhwa don't really fit in the forms, whether it's an audiobook, an ebook, or a physical book. Like, they don't really fit, and length is an interest of mine, like the length of the book. So I think those 3 fit better in mixed in with story length, if that makes any sense. So I'm calling them formats. Now, I've read 4 novels and 1 graphic novel this month. You will at some point hear about all the other forms. Next up, we've got audience. I read 4 adult books and 1 young adult book. Now we're on to the gender identity section, and we start off with I read 4 books with cisgender main characters and 1 book with a genderqueer main character. In the racial identity, I read one book with an Asian main character, one book with a black main character, one book with a Latinx main character, and one book with a white main character. So that's only 4 books, and that's because the other book was a very diverse cast, so I guess I'll go with mixed on that one. Next, we have the sexual identity, and I read one book with a bisexual main character and one book with a queer main character. None of the others had anything other than straight sexual identities that I was aware of. The authors, none of them were new to me. All 5 books I read were by authors I have read books from before. The types of books I read, all 5 were from series, because you know your girl loves her series. And last but not least, the rating. The ratings, I read 1 4-star book, 1 3.5-star book, and 3 3-star books. So a kind of average reading month, which, given how I barely read anything in June and August, which you'll find out later, it works out. So let's jump into the books I read in the month of July. Okay, so the first book I finished in the month of July was A Court of Silver Flames, book 4 in the Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J. Maas. This is an adult fantasy novel that's damn near 700 pages. I gave it 3 stars. I actually borrowed the book from a friend to read it. It took me a while to read. And I put that for me on the fact that I was a bit in a reading slump. So I couldn't really get into it at first. I couldn't really get into anything. So that's not on the book. So I read this physically, and I enjoyed it. You guys should know what this series is about. If you don't, very quick synopsis. I hope we're in a world where the lands where the Fae and humans are separated by this magical wall, with the Fae owning most of them and few humans still left in the world, left with a little bit of land, and the majority of them being in poverty. Feyre is a human who is one of the many who is impoverished, and even though she's the youngest daughter of her family, she's the one who goes out and takes care of them. She goes hunts in the woods, and sometimes the Fae come over the wall, and one day while she's hunting, a Fae does, so she kills it. That Fae's monarch, his king, comes for revenge, and instead of killing her, he takes her back over the wall to Fairy, and the story goes from there. It's like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and this is a synopsis of the first book, A Court of Thorns and Roses. So, that being said, right, this is, like I said, Nesta and Cassian's story. Nesta being Feyre's oldest sister. We're seeing Nesta's point of view for, honestly, I think what everybody went into this was like, why is she such a bitch? And we get it. And it's not, if you didn't like Nesta, it's not going to be a satisfactory explanation, but I personally feel like it was. I liked Nesta. She wasn't a good person, and she isn't really here. She's not nice. She's not kind. She just is. And she comes off as kind of stuck up, and it's just like, but why? That's how it was for me. This book was like everyone's dealing with their PTSD. Basically, there was a war. They're dealing with the aftermath, and it's not always great. Nesta is trying, Nesta is coping, well, her coping mechanisms are not great. And they're hurting those around her. And she just feels like this is the best way to be. And it's not. We've also got Cassian dealing with, what he went through, and then, will they, won't they? And they will several times. I like this. It was slow. I feel like some other people have said this. It didn't need to be this detailed to be 657 pages. It could have been shorter, but I don't feel like what was included was filler, if that makes any sense. It felt necessary. I was disappointed somewhat with the ending. There is a conflict with a bad guy in this, so that's an issue that they're dealing with plot-wise. But it's happening in the background for the majority of the book, and then kind of becomes a big deal, and then it's done. And I felt like that wasn't handled really well, not by the characters, but by the author. Like, for the majority of the book, we didn't really care about that. There's a character that I don't particularly understand who's kind of antagonistic, but just mostly in a I just want to fuck with y'all kind of way. There's no purpose, and that might just be me not liking him because I don't understand that type of person. Like, what do you get out of that? I guess it's kind of bullying behavior, but in a courtly way. And it's just like, I don't understand, dude. What do you get out of this? Just, how does that make you feel better about yourself? I'm assuming that's the point. But yeah, we didn't really get too much more world building, which I think is the biggest disappointment in this. For most readers, it's like, well, where are we going now? Why are we continuing this series? What's next for everyone? There's a smidge, but not a lot, and that ties back into the big bad plot that was kind of a very small part of this. Like, it could have been more, but it wasn't. The other thing that really did not like was the situation with Nesta and Feyre and Rhys and the whole secret keeping thing. Keeping secrets was a big theme in this book for many characters, and I didn't like how several of the inner circle was feeling about certain secrets, things that they wanted to keep a secret, and from who, whatever, and then once the secret comes out, how they handle things. There's another character, I am forgetting her name, but she was friends with Nesta, and then she decided not to be, as like some type of personal development exercise for Nesta or some shit like that, and I was just like, what? No. Those two things really brought it down for me. And, feelings, I respect them. You can feel however you want. I was just like, she didn't do anything wrong. I did not appreciate how they handled that. And that stuff brought down stars for me more than anything else. But, yeah. So the next book I finished in the month of July was Idol by Kristen Callahan. This I read as an ebook. This is book 1 in the VIP series. If you'll remember, last month I read book 2, managed for the Smooth Sisters book club, and I was really curious about the other characters, so I read book 1. And basically, the VIP series, we're following a rock band. They're rock stars as they come back from a hiatus. This being book 1, it really, like, solidified. Should have read them in order, but it is what it is. Solidified, like, what happened before the series started. We're following in this Killian and Liberty. Killian being the lead singer of his rock band. Some shit went down with another member, you know, with involving sex and drugs, rock and roll, and he was taken advantage of. Killian is having some issues dealing with that. Obviously, the band has taken a break while this person gets their stuff together, but they all need to get their stuff together because they are friends. They're not just co-workers, they're friends, they're damn near brothers. So Killian's not dealing so well with it. He passes out drunk in Liberty's front yard, and she's not happy with it. Liberty is not happy about it. She doesn't know who this drunk, disgusting, naked guy is on her lawn, but he has to get off. I love the scene with her and the hose just spraying him awake and him having no clue what the hell. Like, that's still my favorite scene from this book. So, yeah, she's basically like a recluse, and come to find out, she has a musical background. Liberty and Killian have chemistry, not in the way that I first expected from them. I don't know, I expected this to be a little more shallow, and I was pleasantly surprised. I liked where this went for the most part. Some things didn't quite make sense to me. Some of their relationship quirks, you know, each relationship, people, how they communicate and things like that, I just was like, huh? And I think that held me back from really, like, loving this, but I gave it 3.5 stars, and why not? The ending was good, and honestly, we got to see more of Scotty, who was the main character in Managed, and seeing him from the outsider's perspective, not being in his head, it solidified his personality and how other people see him and treat him, versus when I read Managed, and I was like, okay, alright, like, but in his head, he's not like this, and he acts, you see his reasonings for acting the way he does, but from an outsider's perspective, you don't, and it's actually more amusing from this side of things. So I'm glad I read that. I probably will continue the series, but not like in a rush to do so. Someday. Next book I finished in the month of July was my graphic novel Monstress Volume 3, Haven, yes. And I'm continuing to love this series. I don't know really how to review these graphic novels, but I want to include them because, wow. Monstress is a big reason why I needed to really work on the subgenres and switch up my stats, because I was like, is this fantasy? Is it sci-fi? Steampunk doesn't fully encapsulate everything, but I feel like it's the best label that I can put on it. This is a graphic novel series by Marjorie and Yulee, and illustrated by Sana Takeda, and it's beautifully illustrated. The artwork is absolutely amazing, as I've said before, and it's a alternate historical Asia, I guess, early 1900s, if I'm remembering correctly. It's Art Deco meets steampunk, and it's talking about a young girl who, Micah, who lives in this society where there are different races of people, there are, or beings, I should say. Anyway, Micah is the daughter of this powerful woman, sorceress, witch, who was in search of something, and she found something. Did she find what she was looking for? Micah is still trying to figure that out. But basically, there's been these wars going on between all these various factions, and behind all of that has been this search for these gods and their powers and their tools, I guess, that they use that are powerful in and of themselves. And Micah is an orphan of this war, and her mother searched for whatever, and she's lost part of her memory, and one of her arms. So there is disability rep in this, but she's also gained something, a monster that lives in her body and is slowly waking up and talking more and more. There's so many factions, and they all have their own sub-factions, and there's different nations, and everyone's got their own agendas, and they each feel differently about Micah's existence, and some know that she's got this monster in her and others don't, and like, she is just trying to figure herself out and what her mother did, because whatever her mom found is tied to why Micah is like this. So we got some betrayals in this latest installment, and we've got the monster coming up against something as powerful as it is, so not a sure win here. And the ending I'm really sad about, because my favorite character is been kidnapped. So somehow this is also very cute, this series. So think of that however you will. But I'm definitely continuing this series. I got it from the library, an ebook copy of it. I gave this 4 stars. Sorry guys, the next book I finished in the month of July was Sightwitch by Susan Dennard. This is book 2.5 in the Witchlands series. I read the physical book of this and gave it 3.5 stars. This is a high fantasy. This is a high fantasy series, YA series. I know some people have said that the author says it's adult, but honestly, it reads like YA. So we're following Safi and Isolde, who are bond sisters, witch sisters. I forget what the term is officially in the book. But basically what happens in book 1 of this series, Truthwitch, we find out early on Safi is a truth witch. But truth witches are very rare, and so very sought after by various nations and factions within nations, so she has been raised by her uncle to hide her abilities. Unfortunately, while she and Isolde are out committing crime, a blood witch comes in contact with her blood and can smell, what type of witch she is, and is immediately on the hunt for her, following her and Isolde. Isolde is a thread witch, and she can see the threads between people. So that's the term. The two of them are thread sisters. And there's all kinds of hijinks, and all of this is with a backdrop of a 20-year truce between all the world's nations that is coming to an end. And they are meeting to find out whether they will sign a new truce to keep war from happening, or will they let it die and go back to being at each other's throats. A Sightwitch is a novella, book 2.5, and we're following Ryber, who we've met in book 2, I think. Maybe book 1, I don't remember. But she was like a tertiary character, but we're following her here because she is a Sightwitch. This is kind of like a prelude story, so I believe all of that happens in Sightwitch happens before the times of Truthwitch. So we're finding out about Ryber and being a Sightwitch and kind of the history of the Sightwitches. This book is multimedia. It's very interesting. I like this. It's a little bit slower in pace than book 2, and so I like that. The Truthwitch is very fast, and I don't mind it. Like, they're on the run basically in the first book, and it continues to an extent in the second one, but it's not as urgent for everyone. There's a lot of travel, but not like running for the most part, and not as much action on so many fronts. But there's this feeling that the world, the plot is bigger than what we're seeing on the page from mostly Safi and Isolde's points of view with a couple of other people. However, with Sightwitch, we get more of that. We get more of a look at the world beyond Safi and Isolde. They are not fully cognizant of the larger scope of the world, historically and also current events and politically. So that's what I want more of. But yeah, I did enjoy this, and I gave it 3.5 stars. I started the series to be part of the Which Lands Along, and I'm behind as always because I can never keep up with other people reading. And I was having, still reading slumpish feels. My mind was elsewhere, but just I'm hoping Blood Witch is better, but seeing Becca and the book's review of it, I'm not as hopeful. So the last book I finished in the month of July, 2 days till the month ended, I read Sanctuary by Rebecca Weatherspoon. This is book 2 in the Beards and Bondage series. I read this ebook from my library. Another contemporary romance. And this is a biracial couple, again, which seems to be the theme, the way this series is going, Beards and Bondage. Plot-wise, I liked it better than the first book. Relationship-wise, and This is a very modern couple. I have to say there's some neurodivergency rep in this book. One of the main characters suspects he's on the autism spectrum, and once he started, I guess, researching, he was already an adult and had dealt with difficulties in life and decided, I think, not to go to get diagnosed. So I might be wrong in misremembering that last part, so do read the book. But yeah, so this is a fake dating trope heavy thing. Basically, we start out like the first book, Haven. We're following Liz, who is a lawyer at a law firm, and it seems that one of her previous clients sends a hitman to kill her in her apartment because they didn't win the case. This is business law, by the way. The only one who really knows what happens to her at first was a friendly coworker, and he hooks her up. Liz should lie low, and her coworker will try to figure out what's what. He has a brother who lives upstate New York on a farm, so, you know, he takes her up there, and at the last minute, brother not knowing what's going on, and come to find out, the two brothers don't get along, and Silas is not happy to have this woman here, but he appreciates her situation. However, she's supposed to be lying low. They can't tell everyone on his farm that what's happening, so they come up with the idea of this fake relationship that Liz is his online girlfriend and she's visiting, and they're trying to see if they can make it work for real, and yada yada yada. This, you know, fake relationship, all of his workers and family, friends, or whatever, are all super interested in Liz, and yeah, Silas is dealing with life. He's running the farm and the store that they have attached to it, and just, that's it. His house is a mess. There's nowhere for Liz to sleep, so now it's Forks proximity. They're sharing the same beds trope thing. And Liz, in a previous life, was a dominatrix for a living. So somehow that comes up, and Liz is very sure about what she does and does not like in bed. And Silas is not really, but he is attracted to Liz, and Liz is attracted to Silas, but he's also attracted to, I guess, how in charge she is. There are some really awkward moments because Silas doesn't really know how to act as far as this whole fake relationship thing. He seems like the type of person that takes a long time to warm up to people, but they have to act like they've been talking online and are interested in dating. So in front of other people, he's like lovey-dovey and communicative and everything. But as soon as they leave other people's sight or vicinity, like they get in the car, it all dies out. And, you know, that's giving Liz whiplash, and she's not here for it. Because she's here to keep herself alive. This is not like a game. It's you know, it's an inconvenience for him, but this is life or death for her. So, yeah, like, we get through things as best we may. There's negotiation or whatever. Things I didn't like, because obviously I didn't give this 5 stars. So, like I said, I felt like the plot, like the whole, you know, this guy's coming after her, trying to kill her, and the explanation, and, you know, the back and forth, and how that's resolved, I feel, was much more solid, and there was a beginning, middle, and end to that where In Haven, it felt like it kind of petered off. We didn't get a satisfactory conclusion for me. And things happen on the page. So that was better here. The relationship, though, was not as much. Like, I'm not sure about the chemistry. Sometimes I felt it, other times I didn't. Like, at first, I wasn't sure what was going on with Silas. And then the issue with him and his brother didn't make sense until it was explained. And then I was like, okay, now I don't really understand the brother who is friendly or whatever. But I feel like it's just, maybe I just haven't met these type of people who do these things. I don't have experience with that, so it's just like, I'm like, what? People, why would you do that and then act that way? So there's that. But I feel like I kind of eventually got a better grasp of Silas. Liz, though, there was one part in particular I really did not like, and she has taken the sexism that is prevalent in the world and the racism that is prevalent in the world, particularly her world, the things that she's dealt with that I completely understand, and it's very much attached to her sex life, which again I understand, and like there's like this, she has a little mini revenge plot. No, that's not right. Like how she put it was, you know, that men often go into sex like it's about them and they're in charge or they're on top or whatever, and she needs to even things out in the world and be the one in charge and whatnot, even though the man that she's currently dealing with is not acting in this way. And it felt like she was kind of putting him in the spot or as a replacement for the ills that other men have done, and that didn't seem right to me. Silas seemed okay with it, so I have no choice but to be okay with it because it's not my relationship, fake as it is. Fictional and also fake dating or whatever. Obviously, they grew to like each other. It's a romance, you know, happy ever after, happy for now, at least. I did like her character development towards the end. Like, she had to deal with what she had to deal with. She had to take care of herself and then come back to him. Like, this is what I'm ready for. And the same with Silas. Like, he just had to deal with the fact that she had to go back to New York City and deal with her life. And it wasn't going to be quick. And he was going to be on the back burner. And, you know, that's just life sometimes, y'all. So I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I liked it. I think I liked Liz less than Silas, and I was a bit confused by both of them, but I think this is also me growing as a reader, particularly of modern romances. This all seems realistic to an extent, minus maybe the hitman, but the rest seem very realistic. We have, you know, autistic people out there. We have people whose brothers are shitty assholes. We have people who have crushes on other people but don't tell them. We have women who are black and gorgeous who are in high-powered careers and being, you know, held back because they're women and black and sure of themselves. We have, you know, job manipulating people, with, you know, all of the above. So I'm interested to continue the series. It's still well written. This one didn't feel like an abrupt ending like the previous one did, so I guess I liked it better. Check that out. So that was the last book I read in the month of July. Let me know if you read any of these books down in the comments below. If you have, what you thought of them. Would you read any of these? How was your July? I know it's been a while, but I know I'm not the only one, like, who takes a while to get themselves going. I blame my spreadsheet, technical difficulties. But yeah, leave me a number 5 emoji in the comments if you want to support, but don't really have a comment to leave. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you are new. Hit the notification bell so you know when the next video is coming out. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye.